I want to just preface this by saying the Germans, when we were in the ghetto, required that the Jews surrender all their gold and valuables. So my parents put them into a little bag, and there was like behind the house we were living, there was like a cellar and stuff that people they stored things in the back. So right as you step into there, below the first step, my parents buried whatever valuables they had. They'd say, I'd rather do that than give it to the Germans. So one of them was this ring that my Aunt Alla left. Now, I just want to mention that my Aunt Alla, at one point, she and her husband decided to try to get back to Warsaw to be with their parents, and we never heard from them again. And I'm sure they were killed along the way by whoever was taking them there. But here it is. They called me Miriam, the first grandchild, surrounded by a family who loved me. None more than you, my mother's sister Sarah. I called you in Polish, my ciocia Alla. You became my dearest friend in life, kissing away my tears until I burst into laughter, lulling me to sleep with my shtetl belts, which became my favorite Yiddish liederland. I liked how smooth it felt against my skin when you held my hand as we strolled in the park. Those happy years were the calm before the storm. All too soon came terror and hunger, surviving in the Lida ghetto. We shared each precious slice of bread. We barely survived the ghetto slaughter, living life hour by hour, shedding so many tears those terrible days, so many times coming so close to death, always finding comfort in each other. You left us for Warsaw that fall to care for your elderly parents. We pleaded, we have suffered so much together, don't leave us now, please don't go. You left me your ruby ring in the care of my mother, meant for me to wear if I survived the war. You eventually perished in the Shoah. We don't know when, where, and how. For years I looked at your photos and cried while singing to myself my shtetl belts. I wore your ring when we came to America. It reminded me of you every day of my life. 73 years since you and I parted. I tried to leave behind bad memories of the past, becoming a Holocaust artist and writer. My most touching works are of you, ciocia Alla. My granddaughter Sarah is named after you. From childhood, she asked that I tell her my story. Visibly moved by what I had lived through and survived. As a child, she wrote a little book about my life, and on her piano composed a piece on the Shoah. Our eyes cloud over when we speak of you, in those tears an eternal bond of memory and love. Shortly I passed the ruby ring and your love onto her, and a couple of years ago I gave her my ring, and she cried while she took it.
Who's in the picture, Miriam?
My aunt Alla, my other mother, and I in Warsaw in the park before the war.
Why is it important for the true factual stories of the Holocaust survivors? Why do they need to be heard?
Because the stories were so powerful. There was the ugliness of what was perpetrated against the Jews was so unbelievably horrid that anything else but speaking the truth would diminish what they had to live to die through before they died. And I am doing them not for posterity, but in memory of them. That's why I did all this work, in memory of them, not for American Jews or any other Jews. I did it in memory of them, that their memory should be alive and known. I'm very, very pleased that Joanne has written this book. It was an interesting endeavor. I wrote it from my perspective, and then she put it in her words to make it accessible to middle school children. And we worked like this for a couple of years. And it's a book that needed to be written, but that I never had that experience, and I wouldn't know how to write it. And so I'm very pleased that it was written and it reads beautifully, and that it's coming out now. And I know because if I could travel, traveling is very hard for me. If I could travel, I would go to till my back started going. I used to visit museums and give talks and other things, but it's hard for me to do this right now. And so my books and especially Joanne's and my book now are relevant to so many children. I hope that this will perpetuate the memory. And remember that even though it's of my life, some 1.5 million children were killed, and nobody's there to tell their story. And that's so sad.